Hello and welcome to today's podcast. My name is Ryan Johnson, your host, and I've got Paul Johnson, VP of Operations, with me today. Paul, always a pleasure. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Ryan. It's good to see you. Good to be here as well.
Always a fun time on this podcast talking about sales taxes. Never a dull moment. All right, so today actually is kind of interesting if you follow the world of sales tax. Tennessee is dropping, lowering their kind of economic nexus thresholds. And Paul, I know you're all on top of this because we got many clients that we advise, and I was wondering to get your take on kind of why Tennessee is doing this and kind of what the impact will be, and just kind of see what your views are.
For sure. Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's never changing, never a dull moment like you indicated, Ryan. It's Tennessee is one of the few states to start imposing this marketplace facilitator legislation, but in regards to economic nexus, they jumped on board, one of the first or earlier ones to jump on board with economic nexus back in July of last year. And when they first established the economic nexus, it started at $500,000 in total sales with no transaction threshold. Contrary to a lot of the states who, when they established their economic nexus, they followed suit with South Dakota, and they established 200 transactions or $100,000 in total sales, gross sales. And so now Tennessee has indicated that effective October 1, when their marketplace facilitator legislation goes in place, that the economic nexus will now be lowered from $500,000 to $100,000 in total sales. So from an economic nexus standpoint, that's a big deal because for many small sellers, 500,000 is a decent amount of sales in the state of Tennessee to Tennessee customers, but $100,000 that could be a big impact for a lot of online sellers who are doing business in the state of Tennessee. So it's big time.
That is a big deal, and $500,000, that's a lot of money. In dropping it to $100,000, that will definitely capture a lot more, it's online sellers.
Yeah.
And I was reading that Tennessee hopes to capture I think it was $14 or $15 million of sales tax revenue from this drop. So
that's crazy.
They've run the numbers, so there must be a lot of businesses that meet those thresholds. Companies need to be aware.
It's one of the few remaining states with that large of a threshold as well. California, I think, is California is 250, I think. No, California is 500,000. Mississippi is 250,000. New York is 500,000 and 100 transactions, and now Texas. Texas is also 500,000. So everybody else is either they don't have one. Florida and Missouri, they're the last two without economic nexus just yet. But everybody else is either $100,000 in total sales or 200 transactions. And what we're starting to see is a lot of the states, or some states, many states are dropping the transaction threshold. So instead of 100,000 or 200 transactions, they're just saying once you've crossed 100,000 total sales, then you've established economic nexus. So constantly changing. Wayfair now over 2 years old, but still impacting states, and will continue to impact states for many, many months and years to come, I imagine.
With the whole COVID-19 pandemic happening, I know there's a lot of states hurting tax revenue wise. And so it'll be interesting to see what states try to do in the next future to recapture, that money, that lost money. So be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you said it, but when does this law come into effect?
October 1st, 2020. So,
Okay. So that leads to my next question of when, if you meet the threshold now, at $100,000, when will you need to be registered? Is there some sort of leeway? Is there a grace period?
that's a good question. Some people want to know how do I review that, or how do I know if I exceeded the threshold? And so the state has indicated from October 1st, 2020, that's when the law goes into effect. And so you would review 12 months prior to that to determine if you've exceeded $100,000 in total sales into the state of Tennessee to Tennessee customers. If you have, then you're required to register. And unlike most states, the state of Tennessee is giving taxpayers 3 months in order to register before they start imposing penalty and interest. Now, they'll have to find you, they'll have to audit you first before they can actually impose those penalties. But they are allowing taxpayers a few months to get registered and get compliant before imposing penalties and interest, whereas other states, it could be effective immediately. It could be effective, within the first 30 days you have in order to get registered. But so Tennessee they're allowing some leeway for taxpayers to get registered.
So you're saying that you'll want to know if you meet the threshold, you would just look back over the last 12 months. So you would look back if since that goes live October 1, you'd go back and look at your sales through October 1, 2019.
October 1, 2019 through September 30, 2020.
Okay.
This is the period, the 12 months you would review and consider. But if you've had physical Nexus, or you've had, Tennessee doesn't have a click-through Nexus, but they have an affiliate Nexus. If you've established Nexus basically in the state of Tennessee prior to economic Nexus, obviously you got a whole different issue to worry about. But these are for our straight remote sellers, e-commerce businesses who are selling and delivering products via a common carrier into the state of Tennessee. So if you have physical Nexus, or you think you have had established Nexus prior to this, then you ought to schedule What's Next call, and let's jump on that so we can review your operations, your business footprint, and give you some peace of mind as far as becoming compliant or getting compliant.
Yeah, I could see that being an issue if you're looking straight at economic Nexus and thinking that that is your one and only type of Nexus that you have within the state, and you go ahead and get registered when you meet the threshold, and it could come back and bite you in the butt if you had physical Nexus, you end up having physical Nexus for the last 6 years, right? That could really impact you in a bad way. So it is, and that's something we'd cover on one of our next What's Next calls, right?
Absolutely.
We would go over.
Absolutely. If you sell on Amazon, Amazon's got a fulfillment center in Tennessee, so you may have physical inventory stored in a Tennessee warehouse. So don't think that just because you've been selling that you're off the hook just because you've been selling through Amazon. But now with the marketplace facilitator legislation, that brings on a whole new ball game as far as Amazon remitting the tax on your behalf in Tennessee. So if all you do is sell on Amazon, then your tax responsibility is essentially zero because Amazon's collecting and remitting the tax to Tennessee. But we don't want to jump into all of that. There's a million things we can get into right there with that one, but
and that's why when you're searching online for the answers, how do I become compliant? I want to be compliant. I don't want to, I would assume this is everybody's thoughts. I don't want to get hit with some sort of assessment from an audit because I had no idea what was going on. I want to be compliant, but then all of a sudden you get into it and you have no clue on what to do.
It'll be interesting to see how aggressive Tennessee is. We saw a couple of states that when taxpayers got registered, the state actually came back with a letter indicating, hey, we believe you had business in our state prior to this through inventory or through physical presence. And so Tennessee may take that approach for everybody registering October 1st. They may have, knowledge from Amazon that you had inventory in their state, and so they could run a check and balance and see, oh, yeah, you had inventory going back. So
Yeah.
there may be some responsibility or liability there before you get registered. So it's a good point, right?
Now, I think that's where our What's Next call is really important, and it could really help you. It's a free call. Just get on the phone, and we can go with you step by step on what you need to do. We'll get to know your business a little bit, and you can get to know us a little bit, and we'll help you. We've got a great process in how we go through it, help you determine your nexus, taxability, and your next steps on whether you just getting registered going forward works, or maybe a VDA, whatever it is. Great process. And one of the people on those calls is Paul. So you get to talk with Paul, get to know him personally. So find the link in the description and schedule yours today. Again, thank you, Paul, so much for your time today. Wisdom.
Absolutely.
And knowledge. So Paul, great to see you, and hope to see you on another one.
Thanks, Ryan.